And so, it begins. Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shimmering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewed across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Please. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks. Welcome to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. The date today is the 12th of November, I believe, 2010. It's 8 p.m. in the British Isles. People get confused by the concept of summertime. Every year this happens, by the way. Yep. I taught about time zones at summertime and why we put our clocks forward and back in junior school when I was 9. What do they teach you at school these days? I'm confused. Why is it a different time? Oh, man. Come on, please. 8 p.m. GMT now. It is 3 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. And I believe it is also midday Pacific. It's also 9 p.m. Central European time. This is Blue Please. You are listening live. Maybe you're not. If you are not, then you're doing it wrong. This is the time it's on every week. You should be coming here. First, an apology. I have to apologize for not being on last week. Sadly, the whole surgery thing does take it out of me. I wasn't really supposed to do anything strenuous with my voice for 2 weeks. I ignored them, as you could probably notice. However, the medication I was taking was making me quite drowsy. I will try and do the show today. I think I'm okay, but I can't be certain. We shall see, anyway. I haven't done anything live since my surgery, so yeah. Just bear that in mind. If I do have to go off early, that'll be why. It'll mostly because I'm probably torrenting blood from my nose and maybe mouth. Oh, well, whatever. There's also a reason I'm not on cam today for that very reason. Hey, I'm sneezing blood, guys. Isn't this awesome? Have a look at this. I'm thinking no. Oh, well. What have I got coming up for this show today? Well, I'd like to tell you about the fact that heroic raiding is now available for testing. I'm not going to spend too long going on to a rant and a rave about the fact that they're putting out freaking everything for testing beforehand, but I do want to talk about raiding as a repetitious piece of content and how exactly you can keep it entertaining for yourself, doing it week in, week out, and what Blizzard can do to make it entertaining week in, week out. Because it is the content you're going to be spending the majority of your time of when you hit max level, unless you are a PvPer or one of those dirty, sleazy ult-rolling types. Also, rated battlegrounds. Are they any good? Well, I can talk to you about those. I like to talk to you about the concept of battlegrounds as a tactical and strategic exercise, as opposed to, well, herding kittens, which is what happens when you go into a pubby battleground. And if you don't believe me, well, you're basically wrong. Aside from that, I'm going to start by talking about a movie. And yeah, I know it's not WoW related. If you don't like it, switch off for the next 15 minutes. Or skip forward if you're listening to the podcast. I don't care. It's Blue Please, and this particular movie has blue lights in it. So I'm going to talk about it. It's bad. It's really, really, really bad. I need to spend some time expressing to you just how bad it is. So, for no apparent reason, we're doing a movie review to start off the show. Then we'll do the mail time. And, of course, Cataclysm questions and answers. The end of the show. That sounds like a plan to me. Send them in to themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. That's where you need to go for it. Oh, let me tell you how bad Skyline is. First, let me tell you about me as a person when it comes to watching movies. So, I've got a Cineworld Unlimited card, so I can watch any movie anytime. I don't pay for it. It's a fixed monthly fee, which is very easy to get your money's worth out of. The cinema's about 5 minutes walk away from my house, so there you go. I like basically almost every movie there is. I can derive some kind of enjoyment out of it because I really enjoy watching movies, particularly in the cinema. I like the big screen experience. I like the big sound experience. I like everything there is to like about the cinema. I'm very fortunate to have a very good cinema next to me. And I can't remember the last time we ever had problems in it. We don't have screaming kids, people screwing around on mobile phones or anything like that. It just doesn't happen. We have a really good cinema with a lot of, it's got a lot of screens, very good quality screens, things like that. So I go to the movies when I'm feeling like it. If I've got a long encode going on, for instance, and I can't do anything on my computer, I just go to the movies for a couple of hours. Or if I'm just bored, or if I'm feeling like chilling out, I'll go to the movies. It's good to get away from the computer, go do something else, etc., etc. Now, just to give you context for how few movies I actually dislike, I can only think of about 5 in my life that I have disliked. They are, in no particular order, The Cable Guy, Dr. Dolittle, the Eddie Murphy version, the new remake of Phantom of the Opera, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Paper Tigers, which was a really, really bad DVD that I bought for 50 pence from a market stall one day with the subtitle American Samurai, which I didn't make any sense because it was all about the freaking triads and not about the Yakuza. Anyway, those are, I think, the 5 movies that I've ever watched and really disliked. Actually, no, there's 6. Epic Movie. Epic Movie was really bad as well. So yeah, 6. 6 movies total that I've hated in my entire life. Some people might say, well, you've forgotten Twilight, but no, because I watched it with riff tracks on, so for me it was hilarious. I pity anyone that had to watch it without. Right. So, those were the ones that I hated. Everything else, I've at least, actually gotten my enough enjoyment out of to justify sitting there and watching it. However, I'm going to have to add a 7th movie to my list of ones that I dislike. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Skyline. So I like dumb action movies. I like dumb anything. I got enjoyment out of a recent movie called Jonah Hex, which, let me see what it got on Rotten Tomatoes, because I think on Metacritic it was about 29. Let's go on... I can't even... Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes. Search Rotten Tomatoes for Jonah Hex. Jonah Hex on Rotten Tomatoes got... come on. 13%. 13! That's how bad it was on Rotten Tomatoes. Average rating of 3.4 out of 10. 28% of the audience liked it. As in, it is rated absolutely abysmal, and yet I got more enjoyment out of that movie by a very significant margin than I did out of Skyline. So, yeah. Let me tell you why Skyline is terrible. So, it's very, very difficult to get an alien apocalypse movie wrong. It's really hard. I mean, all you need is some special effects, some cool fighting scenes, some creepy or scary aliens, and maybe a little bit of heroism for good measure. Or if you're going the other direction, whereby everyone just dies, and resistance is futile, etc., etc., you bring in either some human drama or some genuinely awesome destruction. So, Skyline doesn't have any of that. You'd think it does, based on the trailer, but all of the really cool special effects are in the trailer. That's it. The vast majority of the actual movie is spent inside a hotel penthouse. For no reason. Now, I went and did a bit of research and tried to figure out exactly why about 90% of this movie was spent inside one freaking room. And as it turns out, it was because it was a very limited budget. It was only a 20 million budget. And apparently that's the reason for having no worthwhile acting of any description, no worthwhile script writing of any description, a complete blue balls ending that answered nothing and was a complete waste of time. They had one good actor, one single good actor in that entire film, and he was a television actor from Dexter. You know, Angel, the freaking detective from Dexter, he's in it. But he's not in it for all that long. I guess that was the biggest budget actor they can actually afford. Their lead actor has not been in anything good except for one episode of The West Wing, where he played a tiny bit part. Every other movie he's been in has been awful, according to IMDb and everything else. So, that didn't really help, let's be honest. Let's just get the acting for a second, because you'd think if everyone was being absolutely slaughtered and abducted and killed around you and your entire world was falling in on itself, especially, I might add, when your city, and of course this has minor spoilers, as you will imagine. If you don't want to hear the spoilers, then just tune out. Warning has been given. Your city gets nuked. Yeah? Nuked! Like, they drop a freaking nuke on the aliens, obviously, because every single big alien apocalypse movie you ever see involves the use of nuclear weapons, because of course they've got to break that out. But, they don't even try anything else. They just go in with nuclear weapons. Let's not even get started to the fact that it's launched by a B-2 bomber that's doing loop-the-loops and corkscrews in a more agile manner than a freaking F-22. It's ridiculous. It is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Oh, wow. Like, just doing spins and loops with this dramatic music playing in the background. You know the kind, when the American military is involved in everything. Like, dramatic drum is like, yeah, save the day. It's like, this is not a freaking X-Wing. Seriously, it's a B-2 stealth bomber. You can't do that. It would fall apart. Let's not even mention the fact it's got a bloody rocket booster on the back, of course, because people don't understand jet aircraft unless they have massive, great afterburners behind them. But anyway, we're not going into this particular movie thinking it's realistic, are we? No, we're not. We wanted to see some good alien abduction and some explosions. The air battle scene lasts about 50 seconds. That's it. Because that's all they can afford. They've got no budget for this thing, and yet they spent it all on the special effects for the aliens, which of course they reused over and over and over again. There's only about 2 alien types because they couldn't afford to animate anything else. It's just so silly. It's got no plot at all. They tried to make it very, very clever. They tried to do the whole 15 hours earlier thing, but that entire section could just go, because it serves no purpose. At all. Like, you'd think it would serve a purpose for establishing a link and a connection to the characters, right? So you feel like, oh, well, I feel some connection to this character, I feel some empathy for this character when they're going through this horrible thing. You don't feel any empathy for these guys at all, because they're completely, totally flat. They have no defining characteristics at all. Any one at all. To the point, I might add, where the 2 lead characters have to have some ridiculous thing happen to them in order for them to be remotely memorable in any way. So the lead male character somehow gets this sort of extra strength from absorbing some alien energy or something, which is good because before that he was really boring. Not that he really gets a chance to use it, because there's barely any actual combat in the movie. And the only defining characteristic of the female lead is that she's a few weeks pregnant. That's the only thing. Otherwise, there is no defining characteristic about this. And let's not even get onto the supporting characters. This is amazing rap star guy who is characterized by the fact that he is in the penthouse that they spend 90% of the movie in, and at one point cheats on his wife for his personal assistant, which of course doesn't establish anything in the movie. Yes, that's the guy from Scrubs, by the way. It doesn't matter. You don't feel anything for any of the characters because there's just nothing about them. So that entire half an hour doesn't need to be there. It starts with the alien invasion, then cuts back about 15 hours. Half an hour of the movie wasted with this pointless crap, and then it cuts back to where it was in the first place. Oh, but of course, because those 30 minutes were for one reason. Actually, 2 reasons. The first one, to give an explanation as to why they're in the penthouse in the first place that they spent 90% of the bloody movie in. And second, to introduce one of the biggest contrivances I've ever seen, which is a telescope. Yeah, this big, sodding, massive digital telescope that this guy just happens to have. I've heard, by the way, that rap stars are big into digital telescopes, especially when they're connected to their fat, flat-screen televisions plugged into the frickin' wall. So during the party, they're using this telescope to spy on people in other apartments. And it's the most puerile, immature thing ever. And they You know, a nice bit of homophobia involved in it as well, because they spy on someone who's blatantly getting oral sex from someone, and then it pans in and you see that it's from a man, and, like, everyone's shocked and appalled. It's like, yeah, awesome, thanks for reminding me that America is completely homophobic. Whatever. So this contrivance is used throughout the movie, of course, because he has a telescope linked into this giant freaking plasma screen, so they can use it to look out the window without being spotted by the thing. And that's what half of the scenes outside are done on the screen right there. They're actually shown on the screen. And I assume that's the excuse they have for these narrow angle views, so they don't have to spend any more money on special effects. If it actually made any sense, like, let's just say it was low budget, like Diary of the Dead, which isn't even that good a movie. That was mostly shot on handycams, for the sole reason of it was part of the plot. It was like a first-hand account of a zombie invasion, stuff like that. It was really good. This serves no purpose at all. So, there's no combat. You feel no connection to the characters at all. Let's not even get into the lines and ridiculous like that. You know, this much, it's just something we've got to do, blah, 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 nonsense that is always happening in all of it. That the characters barely show any emotion. They're hardly terrified, considering what is actually happening. They're more concerned about being stuck in a freaking penthouse 20 stories in the air in this bloody hotel. And then the ending, massive spoilers I might add. So, nothing works, yeah? They nuke the thing. This is the only impressive scene of the movie. It's not even that impressive because you don't see most of it because there's big white flash. So they nuke one of the big alien spaceships. It crashes into the ground and then it starts regenerating. You're like, oh god, it failed. Of course it failed, because that's exactly what happened in frickin' Independence Day. It's identical to what happened in frickin' Independence Day, except this time it crashes and then gets back up again. Blah, blah, blah. You know, there's a little bit of military fight. There's barely any. You want to know how many army dudes are actually in this? 4. Yeah? They deploy 4 soldiers. That's it. That's all they do. 4 soldiers with Barrett sniper rifles on the roof, which do absolutely nothing, I might add. I think there's a rocket launcher involved in it as well at some point, but it's a total waste of time. Of course, the main character has more luck with a fire axe than the military do with Barrett 50 cals and a bloody rocket launcher, because that's just the way movies like this go. At the end, they get sucked into the spaceship anyway. You know, there's no save for them whatsoever. You know, they're screwed, blah, 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 and of course you see them kissing as they go up, and apparently these aliens are eating brains, yeah? There's no explanation as to the reason the aliens are here or whatever. They seem to take brains and put them in other bodies, and that's about it. And they don't eat the brains of the female character because the contrivance says she's pregnant. They don't want to do that, so they send it to a secondary chamber. They eat the brain of the male character, whose brain is then put into some kind of robot thing, who then comes and, quote, saves her and starts fighting off the aliens, yeah? And that's it. It ends there. There's no cool fight. You don't get to see any of the fighting. It's all done in still images in the credits because they couldn't afford it. Oh, wow. You know what? If you hadn't spent so much money on the bloody advertising budget, covered every cinema in trailers and every site in ads, maybe you could have afforded to make a decent movie. Oh, it's the worst movie I've seen this year. It is so very, very, very bad. How do you screw up a movie like that? How? It's as bad as those sci-fi original movies. Actually, you know what? I'd rather watch Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus than this piece of crap. Ah, please. You know, maybe if they also hadn't flattened a Porsche at one point, they would have afforded a decent script writer. Like, the Porsche gets flattened by the alien. Okay, so that was, what, $100,000 you just threw away on this freaking Porsche. That's assuming you didn't have to do any retakes. God, filmmakers waste money on the stupidest crap these days. And on the plus side, the aliens look really cool. Well, then that's about it. And, you know, the whole idea, at least at the start, that this blue light sort of takes control of you, then sucks you up, is kind of neat. And there's this one scene where they're sucking people up, and it's just like thousands of people flying through the air, but that's for about 10 seconds. And you don't see any of that for the rest of it. Now, the film never progresses at any point. They invade, they suck people up, and they do that for about 3 days, and then the guys at the end sort of die, and that's it. Wow. The film's a bloody disgrace, folks. Seriously, avoid Skyline at all possible costs. There are so many movies I would suggest watching that aren't Skyline. The special effects don't even save it, because of course you don't get to see enough of them. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It really does. My name's TotalBiscuit. I'll be back right after this with a mailbag. I'm going to play something by Volbeat. This goes by the name of Fallen. I'll be right back after this. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Please. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on CynicalBrit.com. Yes, indeed, folks, listen to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. Right, okay, we've done the irrelevant movie stuff. You can tune back in now. Oh, wait, if you've tuned out for the movie stuff, you haven't tuned back in yet, you're doing it wrong! Go tell your friends, tell your wife, like so forth. Mail time.
Mail time! That sounds like it's mail time! Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, indeed, folks. It's mail time. It's a time where we read the mail, as you might imagine. And since I'm not blithering for the first 5 or so minutes of the show about various things, I think we might get more mail fitted. Dear host of shows,
You dare look upon the host of souls! I shall devour you all!
comes from Draktheon, level 80 protection red paladin. He says this: I write to you with total contempt for the degrading player base of World of Warcraft. I have had my most moronic encounter to date within the past week. I've been absolutely blown away by just how retarded these people are. This first was on a weekly guild run of ICC 10. Something went wrong, and for some reason one of our ranged had to leave once we hit Sindragoza. Not wanting to wait, we grabbed a hunter in trade chat. Shame on us, I know. We proceed on with confidence after the hunter joins Vent because the week before we killed her in one shot and moved straight onto Lich King. Our tank pulls, we got down to about 14% before we wiped due to the retard hunter screwing up the ice blocks. We shrug it off because our strategy is different from many guilds. We move on to wipe 2. Why? Because the hunter keeps screwing up the blocks, and this keeps going on for 5 wipes. And all the while this goddamn hunter is trying to direct us in Vent. The hunter that screws up the blocks and the blistering cold is trying to direct us in Vent. He's repeatedly giving false directions and trying to lead. All the while he's saying, don't panic, even though he's screaming like a little girl. After about the 3rd wipe in, I'm mocking him, yelling, don't panic, into my mic. It's now an inside joke with the guildies who were there. Now, I know it's not just fair to point it out, but I think he was an entitled casual, God forbid. But I would like to hear a rant on it. When is it right for a player to point out when someone is being an absolute total moron? Should I have held back and let him run rampant on my ICC run? Scrubs? In my ICC? It's more likely than you think. Also, a shout out to the guild Addicted on Medivh. Actually, Addicted to Obsession. That seems really, really convenient. Yeah. Okay. Firstly, if you are a puppy in a guild group, then you should be grateful for even being there. Simple as that. Secondly, puppies should under no circumstances be trying to lead the raid if it's a guild run that already has a leader. And let's be honest, if it's a guild run even without a leader, the puppy shouldn't be the one giving the freaking orders unless asked. They are guests. Seriously, it's like someone coming into your house. Yep, so let's say you invite someone to a party, yeah? You don't even really know them all that well. They're a friend of a friend of a friend. You invite them to be courteous, etc. And hey, it would be nice just to have an extra person at the party, because you've got a bunch of sausage rolls, they need to be eaten, and honestly, you can't finish the sausage rolls. That and sausage rolls are really bad for you anyway, so you don't want to stuff them down because you might just have a heart attack. Whatever the case, you invite the guy, and not only does the guy take part in the sausage rolls, which is okay, but he directs you in the cooking of the rest of the food, and the decor, and how the party was arranged, and the guests that should be there, and what food should be served, and what music should be played, and he keeps yelling about this the entire time, ignoring what everyone else is saying. That's basically what it is. It's beggars can't be choosers. Eh? If he comes into a guild group, then he should be grateful for even frickin' being there. Especially, of course, when he's giving bad advice. I mean, how is it even possible that you give bad advice on a fight that has been now killed so many frickin' times that the strategy is ingrained genetically into the minds of half the player base? Seriously, how do you even do that? I don't know. That's just welcome to entitled casual puggers, folks. It gets to the point where people are so entitled, yeah? They feel that this $15 a month entitles them to everything, including the leadership of the group they were invited to. I have a quote about this, actually. Oh, yes, indeed. Someone actually quotes me. There's quite a few people in the forums that are quoting me on this one. I must have said this ages ago. I don't know where this quote came from, but it's in quite a few signatures now in the forums. I said this. I know your $14.99 entitles you to play the game your way, but the rest of the rate's $359.76 says know your role. I don't know when I said that. When did I say that? I know I did say it because people are attributing this quote to me. I just can't remember when I said it. Maybe it was years ago. I don't know. I'm sure someone can tell me. Oh, man. It's totally right as well. You are a single player. A single player. One person, one voice, versus either 9 or 24 other people, or maybe even 4 other people. Whatever the case, it's simple mathematics that 4 greater than 1, 9 greater than 1, 24 greater than 1. Always, every time. Especially when that group is a guildie. Apparently it was 3 or 4 shows ago. Okay, whatever. I can't even remember what happened last week. The sheer arrogance of it is disgraceful, and unfortunately a lot of people are like that. These are the people that are kind of left still playing the game right now. Ugh. Disgraceful. Yeah. You should have, to be fair, you waited too long to rail on the guy. If he comes in and he screws up the main mechanic of the fight, then what I would turn around and say to him is, what the hell are you doing? You know? You said you knew what you were doing here. There's a reason why people ask for Link achievement. There is a reason. Because this is why. Yeah? They have to try and use these various artificial means to avoid people like this. Because there are people like it, and there are an awful lot of people like it. It's really bad. Incredibly bad. Whatever you need to keep people out of there, folks. Like I say, you will always be disappointed. If you go to a pug, you'll always be disappointed. I constantly hit myself for queuing solo ranked in League of Legends because I meet the most retarded people. And it's a universal truth. I play video game. I am best player of video game. Always the way. Seriously, it's horrible. Oh well. Let us continue. I do have other emails. This one's about guilds that are bad. Okay. So it comes in from, wishes to remain anonymous. So I will keep him anonymous. Dear host of shows, on nearly all your points I agree, and apologies if this is badly spelled, I'm dyslexic, but I want to toss an idea out there for you. I've always been a gilded raider, but I have, in a few instances, run into guilds where they conduct themselves and have incredibly bad behavior. An example, an unnamed guild that would Photoshop people that they didn't like, or raiding guilds that were, quote, breaking RP, in an RP channel named Darknest. If you don't know what Darknest is, it's an RP community that practices erotic roleplay in World of Warcraft. Sadly, I do know what Darknest is. A couple of our ex-WoW radio guys that ended up getting fired, I might add. This was not the reason, but we looked up after the fact and it didn't surprise us in any way. We're part of the Darknest erotic role-playing community, and I believe they drew furry art. Oh god, I'm sorry. I need... Ugh. Get me the mind scrub. Wow. So bad. Anyway. They would then post these shots on the Warcraft forums. Even though the threads would be removed, people affected were humiliated. Try again. Humiliated! And later had to leave the server to avoid harassment. There are other guilds I've seen that would charge a gold fee to be in them, which I don't really have a problem with. However, the particular guild later disbanded, and the GM kept all the gold for himself, then transferred servers. Oh, wow. Another similar example, a raiding guild had a fee, and after the guild bank gold cap, the guild leader sold the guild to an unknown party for a large sum of money. There's a guild bank gold cap? I wasn't aware of that. I want to hear your opinion on these examples. I'm a new listener, I'm still going through your entire catalogue of Blue Please, but I've only ever heard you lay into a guild once, and that was with Exodus, with their cheating. Don't get me wrong, I hate pugs. I've even got my Kingslayer title pugged, and it was the equivalent to pulling your own teeth out. Yeah, no kidding. I think what this highlights, ladies and gentlemen, is something that I think this actually is partially my fault. No, it's not my fault that people use Darknest erotica, certainly not. But it's my fault that I haven't been more clear, perhaps, over the past month or two when I've been talking about guilds. Yep. Being in a guild is not the magic solution to everything, it's just the magic solution to most things. There are still very bad guilds. Indeed, there are organizations of people that will go out of their way to be terrible. Yeah? the difference between that is that there's actually some malice of forethought there. Yeah? They've actually gone out of their way to be bad. Yeah, like say guilds that were set up to scam people, or guilds that have these campaigns of hate and naming and shaming against people. Yeah? That is organized griefing. Yeah, there's no question about that. Whereas pugs, they're just bad. Yeah? There's no malice there. They're just terrible. It's as simple as that. You can assume that by default. The vast majority of guilds, of course, don't play that badly, and certainly don't maliciously, deliberately, with actual forethought and preparation grief people. But that is not to say that the guild is the answer to everything. When you choose your guild, you have to maybe be as picky as the people in the guild that are reviewing your application to it. Just because you organize people together doesn't mean they're going to be any good. In fact, what you'll find is that there are some guilds that just take anybody, dregs. And I could say, actually, the Trollface might end up being that. I'm hoping not. Certainly hoping not. But there is a potential, certainly. Without a doubt, there is a potential for that to happen. I think the way that we're organizing it is going to minimize that potential, admittedly. But hey. What I would say is that if you've never been in a guild before, if you've just started recently and you're thinking of guilding up for Cataclysm, then just do a little bit of research. Huh? You wouldn't necessarily apply for a job without doing a little bit of research into the company. And if you do, then you'll probably get scammed. Hell, the one time that I ever applied for a job I didn't do research on, I almost got scammed into getting involved in a ridiculous sort of get-rich-quick scheme thing that would have resulted in probably me making no money whatsoever and a waste of my time. Thankfully, after that, I learned my lesson and did research into the companies I was applying to. And the same with guilds. You know, joining a guild isn't as serious as getting a job, but you are picking the people that you want to spend a very significant amount of your leisure time with. That should require a little bit, just a little bit of common sense, as well as some research beforehand. You have to be diligent. As do the people recruiting you, I might add. If anything, perhaps the guilds doing the recruiting have to be more diligent than the people doing the applications. You got to bear in mind that a lot of people that apply to guilds are doing it en masse. You know, these applications end up everywhere. There's been various instances of people saying, oh, well, you're just using a cut and paste application on 30 different guild forums. You evidently don't care about being in our guild. You just want to be in a guild in general, which is understandable, but doesn't mean it's a very good idea. People tend to get annoyed by that. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that guilds like this exist. I wish it did, but it doesn't. Right, I think we have time for one more. So let's go and have a look in the mailbag for this one. Here we go. The State of Racials. This one, Byron Winkler. That can't be your real name. Also known as Aralith. Definitely not his real name. It was reported recently on MMO Champion that Dark Flight, the Worgen racial, has been nerfed. 30% from 70% speed down to 40. This left me wondering about the state of racials for all races, not just the new ones, and what Blizzard's goal was with them. In my opinion, racials should be something that define the race, something you see that makes you recognize and want to play that race if you happen to find a racial interesting. I think they got that pretty much down with goblins, but I'm not so sure about the older races. I remember hearing that Blizzard wanted to rework the racials. Well, from what I've seen, it's mostly been a removal of some abilities and changing the cooldowns of others. What part do you think racial should play in the process of creating a character? Should it be, if you want to play a warrior, for example, you should be looking at races and picking one with the ability that best suits that class and its playstyle? Or do you think the racial should simply be something on the side and that a race should be chosen solely on appearance? But, it's interesting. So, I fall firmly on the side of strong racials. All the time. There are arguments against strong racials. The argument against that is min-maxing. Like, for instance, if you made a tanking racial too powerful, then every warrior would be, say, a Tauren. If they were tanking. And that's a bad thing. There has to be choice. That said, that's a balance problem. That's not a design problem. If you don't make the racials in combination with the way that the class looks and sounds and feels and plays, and, of course, in terms of the race and how it sounds and looks and feels and plays, sufficiently competitive, then that is a balance issue. You've done it wrong. It's like saying, oh, well, the optimal thing to do is this. The pursuit of balance goes down simply to a matter of variety. Because if you don't have balance, then people will pick the most overpowered thing they can find. Most of the time. Some people won't, but the vast majority of people will. So if you have, say, a tanking racial that's too overpowered, then you end up with everyone going to that race for tanking. Race changing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure Blizzard would like that in terms of how much money they'd make off of the race change mechanic. However, it is bad for variety, and it's bad to pigeonhole people into a single race. That said, the current state of racials is bogus. I mean, racials just, generally speaking, suck. I mean, it's a bunch of crappy passives that no one really cares about. +5 to bow skill. Woo. Yeah, it's useful, but it's not bloody exciting, is it? The activatable racials, this, Blizzard said they wanted to go down the lines of having more powerful racials and more activatables, and they wanted to get rid of these crappy passives, and they haven't done it. It's as simple as that. They have not done it. I wanted to... People keep asking me, can you make videos on the new racials? There are no new racials to show you. They just aren't. They're the same. There's minor tweaks on them, and that's it. And now nerfing what is admittedly a very powerful ability is doing it wrong. I've said this, and I said this since vanilla. I remember on one of my early Blue Please shows saying this. Don't nerf a racial, overpower the rest of them. Buff them up. Because if you have sufficient variety, and you go down the route of balancing by making everything OP, then that's okay. That's reasonable. It's just, you take something like Dart Flight, and then you nerf it into the ground, and it's just sad, really, because that's been racials in a nutshell for the past 6 years. Nerf it, nerf it, nerf it, and nerf it again. Oh, terrible. My name is TotalBiscuit, and you're listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. Would you like to hear some Cypher Drone by Disharmonia Mundi? Well, if you wouldn't, that's tough. You're getting it anyway. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Please. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on CynicalBrit.com.
It be another quiet night in the swamp, my friends. Time again to be channeling the powers of the voodoo, like Vol'jin taught us, and seeing into the mists of time. I see a place where the trolls of the future will go for the entertainment. A place called GotGame.com. By clairvoyance, I be seeing the horde favorite original shows like Game Nights TV, The Irate Gamer, Virtual Rob, The Swag Show, Gaming Mysteries, and something called Mr. Suck. These be the kind of things that would make the Darkspear proud.
GotGame.com is your video game source for entertaining and original videos, reviews, and more, preferred by trolls everywhere. Yes, indeed, folks. You listen to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. Let us talk. Talking is good. So I'm told. I'm told it's what you tune in for. It's a very odd concept. I don't know why you do that. I usually talk bollocks. I don't even talk anything worthwhile. I don't say it. I don't speak. Oh well. To each their own, I suppose. Right. Let us talk about... We've got two choices. We can talk about rated battlegrounds, or we can talk about heroic raids in testing. Let's talk about heroic raids in testing, shall we? So, I'd like to ask Blizzard a question. It's a generally good idea. So, why exactly do they think it's a good idea to put the content that is going to be the vast majority of what you play at endgame into testing publicly? Yeah? And I do mean publicly. Everything is available right now. There's no times. You can just go in and do whatever you want. And put it in for weeks, so that by the time that people actually get it in live, they already, one, know what to do, and two, are bored as hell. Also, may I ask, in the world of binary hard modes, which is what we're currently in right now, as opposed to the more interesting time when the only real race that mattered, which was the race for Alganon, whatever, I don't care. And, of course, Yogg plus 0, which is probably the most interesting one. Why is it that now it's okay to put all of this stuff up for testing so that the guilds that get into the beta, and we're talking about people like Paragon are in there, Insidia are in there, there are certain guilds that got in and certain aren't, they now have a fairly ridiculous advantage over those that didn't, in terms of the competitive race. So, we've narrowed down the potential field of people that could actually get a world first, and indeed, in some cases, who can get a realm first, to the guys who got into the beta versus the guys who didn't. That sucks. Before that, I already said before that I hate the fact that they are opening testing for raiding in general. Yeah, I don't like it. I keep saying this time and again, and I do mean it every time I say it, that a company with that kind of budget and a company with that kind of experience and scope should be able to properly put together raid content and not require their players, who I might add have expressed almost universally that they do not want to test it. They don't. I've had them on the show. I've had Premonition. I've interviewed Insidia like about 3 times. I've interviewed Method, Forte, Death and Taxes, all sorts of different guilds. And every time I've asked them about this, they've always said the same thing. We do not want to test raiding, but we don't have a choice. Because Blizzard has made it available. So if we don't, then the chances of us getting a world first are significantly reduced. Because some other guild will not have the same scruples. They will happily go in and test it and get the competitive advantage. Now, to a lot of people, this might not matter. And I can understand that, because most people, myself included, will never get the shot at a world or realm first. But that's not the point. I will never play in Major League Baseball. But that doesn't mean that things that affect Major League players only don't matter. They do. The whole integrity of the raiding scene matters, whether or not you're a tiny part of it or one of the most competitive raiders there is. That integrity has to continue to exist, because if it doesn't, then the competitive spirit and the fire within people that actually drives the content forward is lost. Why is that fire important? Because that competitive spirit and that fire is what drives Blizzard to create better raid content. And once that goes, once that disappears, once people stop caring, then Blizzard does not have the constant pressure to make better raid content. We saw it. I remember back in the day when the world first battles were going on for Cthulhu, for Old Kel'Thuzad, for Kael'thas, for Vash, for Illidan, of course, for Kil'jaeden. And the last big world first battle that I remember was for Yogg plus 0, and every other piece of raid content, including the Lich King, didn't have as much. It just didn't have as much publicity and as much excitement behind it. Think about that for a second. An optional hard mode for one boss in Ulduar had more publicity, more excitement, and more competition than the Lich King. Because by that point, people didn't care anymore. You want to know why they didn't care? I'll give you a reason. Several very good reasons. People stopped caring about the competitiveness of raiding as a result of Nax 2.0, as a result of the Crusaders Colosseum, and as a result of the sorry state of Icecrown. They also stopped caring because of the token system. As in, the system whereby you are able to purchase tier 9 by running Utgard Keep. As in gear that you never deserved. People have lost that fire that came from raiding and lost the excitement and the thrill of raiding simply because raiding has been so unbelievably and perversely debased over the past 2 years. Blizzard might claim innovation, they may claim that this was the best time for raiding because of hard modes and stuff like that, but in reality that is not the case. Hard modes were used as an excuse, and the excuse, quite simple, make less raid content and make more boring raid content. Because Blizzard cries and whines and screams, but if we make the normal modes too hard and too complex, we can't do anything for heroic. Oh, boo-hoo, Blizzard! So your design isn't good enough. Okay, make better design. You know what? I've seen you do it many times before. The only reason I make these complaints, by the way, is not because I hate Blizzard, it's because I know they can do better. You have high expectations, because we're talking about Blizzard here. We're not talking about Randy Randy what? Randy Indie Game Development Company. That's some kind of porn game by the sounds of it. The Randy Indie Game Development Company. Ooh-ar. Yes. They actually say that as well. Ooh-ar, and they're from the West Country. Pretty disturbing, really. You don't want to see smut from the West Country. Seriously. I don't want to know about your tracts of land. Now, random indie development company that you never heard of that makes a bad game. You don't hold them to as high a standard because you know what, they've got no established reputation or any established pedigree. Blizzard has a huge established reputation, a massive pedigree that extends back over a decade. They haven't made a bad game ever. And I do mean ever. I don't count Wrath of the Lich King as a game, it's an expansion pack. Think of one bad game that Blizzard made. Let me pull up the Wikipedia right now. And I will tell you. Is there one? Is there a single one? I bet there isn't. Since, let's see. They were founded in 1991. So they've been around now for 19 years. They were known as Silicon Synapse, and they developed the following. RPM Racing, which I've actually played. Pretty good. Battle Chess, very good. Lord of the Rings on the Amiga, which was actually a port. I don't think we count the ports because these were games that already existed. One of their first original games was The Lost Vikings, amazing. Rocky Roll Racing, amazing. Shanghai 2 Mahjong, which I assume was very good for... they made a Mahjong game? Really? Okay. Yeah, Shanghai 2 Dragon's Eye, they made a Mahjong game. Blackthorn, awesome. The Death and Return of Superman, a very competent brawler. Warcraft Orcs and Humans, incredible. Lost Vikings 2, incredible. Justice League Task Force, which was a versus fighting game, actually really good. Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness, awesome. Beyond the Dark Portal, awesome. Diablo, StarCraft, Warcraft 2 Battle.net Edition, Diablo 2, Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction, Diablo 3, Expansion Pack, WoW, Expansion Packs, StarCraft 2, Diablo 3. And you know what? The only bad games they've made were cancelled. That should be telling. StarCraft Ghost. Funnily enough, I ran into a blog post where someone was saying about StarCraft Ghost. He said, oh, well, I criticised StarCraft Ghost. These things, I played it and it was awful. Seriously, it was. It was really bad. And Warcraft Adventures, which was also bad. Oh, man. So, yeah. After all that, folks, a perfect pedigree. Can you seriously claim that you should not have to hold Blizzard to an almost impossibly high standard? I say impossible if Blizzard hadn't managed to exceed that standard over and over and over again. That's the point. If they consistently made middling to average content, then it would be alright. But you know what? I played TBC, and I played in Old War. Hell, I saw the ICC 5-mans before they got nerfed. Constantly, Blizzard proves that they are more than capable of making excellent content. And then what happens? I don't know what happens. Do they cave to whining? Do they look at some invisible charts that say, oh, well, you know... I think actually it's charts. Really, they do. They look at charts. And those charts say, well, 5% of our subscribers managed to beat this, so we're going to nerf it. No. That's not how it works. People get better when they practice. And if they don't want to practice, they shouldn't be even getting involved. It's like someone saying, I want to play in this really, really great orchestra. Well, do you practice? Are you good? No, but I have an instrument, so I should be able to play. No, they should practice, and they keep practicing and get better, and eventually they will graduate into the Ice Crown Orchestra. But if they don't, they're stuck in the Nax Orchestra. And indeed, perhaps the TOC Quartet. They are bad. Now, bringing in this heroic raid content onto the PTR is just... it's so horrible. Because what that means is the only bosses that are not going to be already dead by the time Cataclysm comes out are Sinestra and whatever the hell the one at the end. Is it Sinestra at the end of Bastion of Twilight or Blackwind Descent? I can't remember which. Whatever. So, the super uber boss, yeah? I think Sinestra's at the end of Bastion of Twilight, if I remember correctly. You got to beat Cho'Gall and Heroic for that. That's the thing. That's all that these hardcore raiding guilds have to look forward to. And you might say, oh, well, I don't care because I'm not in the beta. Yeah, well, I suppose it must be nice to be incredibly selfish. You know? I could say that I don't care because I'm not going to be doing the heroic stuff in the beta. At least I won't be doing a lot of it. I might try a few bosses, but like, oh, it's okay. It's alright. It's okay to put this open for testing because I didn't do all of it. So it's alright for me. Me, Blizzard. Oh, please. There's 12 million people playing this game. What you think doesn't freaking matter. At all. Get this into your head. This is reality, folks. A lot of people are very, very important in their heads. Here's the thing. It's in their head, not anyone else's. I don't see why. I could have gone with the whole test the normal modes thing, even though I disapprove of that. But testing heroics is just wrong. Please. I mean, the major problems with a fight should surely be testable in the normal mode. And then the balance and the other abilities should be testable by a bloody focus group. They don't do it. They just don't. It's much easier for them to just throw the encounters out there and say, hey, you go test them. And the competitive rating guild's like, oh, we really don't want to, but we're going to have to anyway, you know? We have to. Because otherwise we lose our competitive edge. Because these other guys will be doing it. I have to wonder, folks. Why exactly we should have to make a choice? And the choice is this. You have to choose between buggy content or content a bunch of people have already done and therefore is more boring. Why should you have to make that choice? Give me one good reason. There isn't one, is there? There is no good reason. If players can test it, so can Blizzard. Surely Blizzard are players as well? I mean, come on! I know software testing's difficult, but please, there are so many companies that do internal betas, and they actually do them fairly well. I remember a time when games came out and they weren't completely riddled with bugs because they weren't rushed and they didn't even have public betas. There was no testing involved there at all by the public. They just released the game and it worked. Indeed, there are actually an awful lot of games even coming out these days that actually do that. Yeah, I know, it's unbelievable, isn't it? You hear all these words about bad ports and buggy releases, but there's still plenty of games that come out that don't have those problems. Plenty of them. And they are not beta tested. And yeah, I know, it's cheaper to have the players do it. But you know what? Actually, in the long run, that's harmful. You want to know why it's harmful in the long run? You know what? Maybe I don't have a hold of Blizzard financials, so maybe they know more than I do. But let me just extrapolate something from basic common sense and logic. Bored players unsub. That means you lose money. So let me ask you this. Is it cheaper in the long run to lose a bunch of people because they're bored of the raid content, or indeed, is it cheaper to hire a proper bloody testing team? One has to wonder. And you know what? Even if it is cheaper, do you think that's an excuse? Because I don't. It's cheaper to do an awful lot of things. It doesn't mean you do it. Why? Because you're not some random indie development company, and you're certainly not the randy indie development company from the West Country. You are Blizzard Entertainment. You are better than that. God's sake. I remember the first time I ever held in my hand a Blizzard Entertainment game. I was 12, I think. Was I 12? I don't know. Maybe I was 12. When did Warcraft 2 come out? I'm going to have to look this up now, aren't I? Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness, 1995. Was I 12? No, actually. 1995, I was... I can't bloody remember now. Actually, maybe I was 12. Huh. 12 or 13, actually. Yeah, that's alright. That's not bad. Right. You know what? I held that in my hands, and I played that game to death. And you know what? It was the best RTS I'd ever played, and it still kind of is. And it was called Warcraft 2. Where's that Blizzard gone? My name is TotalBiscuit. You're listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. What can we play? There are so many great possible choices. But I'm thinking we need some good old-fashioned Lacuna Coil. What do you reckon? Raid leaders, what use is a guild if you can't shout at them? Why are you standing in the fire again? Shout at your guild with UGTservers.com. Let them hear your fury with crystal clarity. Choose from premium codecs to best convey your wrath. And once you've finally calmed down, you can relax in the knowledge that UGTservers.com offers extremely competitive prices on Ventrilo servers for your guild. At least until the shaman stands in the fire again. Oh, why are you doing this? UGTservers.com. Premium quality gaming Ventrilo servers for your guild. Get yours today. Yes, indeed, folks, you are listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. Righto. Let's talk about Rated Battlegrounds, shall we? Why not? Why not? So, the Rated Battlegrounds are available for testing. Needless to say, I haven't really done them. The thing is, you don't have to test a Rated Battleground, because it's the same as a normal Battleground. You've just got a pre-arranged team, and you get a rating at the end of it. However, even though mechanically it is identical, in terms of playstyle, it couldn't be further from the truth. Why is that? It's because of the nature of the pubby. Yeah? Pubbies have a bad name. A very bad name. And most of the time it is deserved, actually. I wish it wasn't, but it is. Pubbies are generally bad. You can assume that as a default position. It's weird because you think, well, isn't a pubby just a normal player? Well, no, they're not. Because if you're a pubby, it shows a particular attitude. And that attitude is, I'm okay on my own, mate. I'll be fine. I don't need help. I don't need a team. I don't need to be organized. I'm okay. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a ninja. I'm Neo. That's the kind of attitude. And in some games, it's okay, because, of course, there are games that rely entirely on your own individual skill. And then there are other games where it's not okay, where you rely on a team. And then in games like that, preferably, you want to be with people that are willing to work as a team. Lone pubbies, more often than not, aren't, because they have this overinflated opinion of themselves. They don't need anyone else. Either that, or they're so obnoxious that no one actually wants to team up with them. This is more often than not the case. You see a lot of people that says, I don't want to be in a guild. What they really mean is, no guild will take me because I'm an arse. Seriously, it's true. You see these people have been in guilds before, they get kicked out, they've ninja looted, or they've acted like a complete dick to everyone. It is simply the case. Okay. What about Rated Battlegrounds, though? What's going on with that? So, I like the concept of Battlegrounds. I dislike the implementation of Battlegrounds. Or do I? The thing is, Battlegrounds, in terms of implementation, don't really have an awful lot of things wrong with them. Some Battlegrounds are better than others, but then a lot of that is subjective. Eh? Like, I really like Strand of the Ancients, but a lot of people don't. Why do I like it? Well, because it's actually quite tactical. And more than individual skill, it's more reliant on your team working together and playing a little bit of bait and switch, feints, strategies, and the overarching logistical efforts of defending these war machines. To me, that's quite appealing. There's a lot of games that I'll play for individual Twitch skill, but WoW won't be one of them. It just doesn't, it's not my thing. When it comes to Twitch skill, I think of either Dota-style games or I think about FPS. If I'm thinking about overall strategic skill, then I'll be thinking about something maybe a little bit slower. I'll be thinking about an RTS or maybe a turn-based strategy. I don't think I'd really be thinking about WoW in that way. I mean, WoW has strategy in it, both in PvP and PvE. Hell, PvE is all about strategy and the implementation of said strategy, but it's about implementing that strategy in a perfect way. Adaptation and things like that doesn't really matter. PvP does have some adaptation, and I believe there was a quote that I'm going to massacre and paraphrase, is that no plan ever survives first contact with the enemy. And I like that. I like that an awful lot. Battlegrounds in WoW remind me to some lesser degree of playing Savage and Savage 2, which were third and first person shooters with a very much a strategic element to it. We're talking not only about the fact that you've got to be strategic in order to win, we're talking about the fact that there's actually a commander and stuff like that. Hell, I really liked playing Battlefield 2, for instance, because that had a strategic element to it. It had the commander who could issue orders and call in support and things like that. That was really great. Games that don't have that are somewhat less appealing to me these days. So, Battlegrounds, in principle, are really awesome, yeah? The kind of things that I would enjoy doing. The problem is that in practice, they're not. That you don't have a commander interface and you don't have a battleground leader. Yeah, there'll be someone that's labeled battleground leader, but you have no incentive to follow the dude. At all. It's randomly picked. We're talking about someone that probably knows nothing. Like, oh, you're the battleground leader. Okay. Follow my orders. No. Why? Because it's just a name. Nobody else picked you. Nobody voted you into office. It's not like voting in a new commander in Battlefield 2 or indeed in Savage or anything like that. It's not like having a team with an agreed team captain, a raid with an agreed raid leader. It is, in all essence, a pug, a disorganized pug with various people vying for leadership position, which results in disaster because you get conflicting orders. And most people just ignore everything. Absolutely everything. They just turn around and say, well, you know what, I don't care. These guys are arguing amongst themselves. I'm just going to do whatever I feel like. Why would I do anything else? And actually, that's an understandable attitude. I don't really blame people for holding that attitude because you've seen the average pug guy. You know what that person does. You know how that person acts. So why would you follow them? Hell, it's like following a suicide dude, you know? I'm suicidal, I'm going to jump off this cliff, please follow me. And, you know, a couple of lemmings might, but aside from that, everyone else is saying, hell no, I'm staying the hell away from that cliff. I'm going wherever I want to go. Anywhere that's not the cliff. It's sad that because it's a pug, your default position is to assume that the guy is wrong and that his strategy is terrible, and the right thing to do is the exact opposite of what he's saying. Hell, half the time I end up battleground leader, I end up giving completely wrong advice just to make sure that people out of spite will do the opposite of what I tell them. And then suddenly we win because they've done the right thing. It's reverse psychology, folks. It works on toddlers, it'll work on WoW players. Rated battlegrounds, on the other hand, probably the best thing to happen to PvP ever. At all. It is. You want to know why? Because this is Blizzard saying that the only legitimate competitive PvP that's going to be had in Battlegrounds will be had in pre-arranged teams. It will not be had in pubs. Now, some of you might be disappointed by that because that could be construed as a sign of defeat. You could say, well, Blizzard is just giving up. They're a bunch of wimps. They don't want to fix them. They just want to provide a different tier so we can ignore everything else. And I say that's correct, because you can't fix something that broken. You can't fix people's attitudes. You can socially engineer them, but at the end of the day, an arsehole is still an arsehole, and an entitled guy will still be an entitled guy. You will never have as much fun in a pub as you will... You see, that's a bad thing to say, because all of the English people are turning around and saying, yeah, hell damn right we're going to have a bunch of fun in the pub. You'll never have as much fun with pubbies, with randoms, as you will with an organized fixed team, particularly if you know them. I play fixed team League of Legends all the time. I used to play fixed team Dota all the time. I play a lot of games fixed team, and that's good because I know the people I'm playing with. It's generally more enjoyable because I know that those guys got my back. And when they don't have my back, when I'm playing with randoms or fanboys, it's actually why I stopped playing with a lot of fanboys in League of Legends, because as it turns out, more often than not, they're pretty damn awful. Sorry, I'm having flashbacks to them. Ugh, the feeding! The feeding! And there's a reason I don't play with those people anymore. There's a reason I don't do Battlegrounds anymore, because it's not strategic. I never feel like the win was deserved, or the loss was deserved. It's entirely out of my hands. It's like, again, in League of Legends solo ranked, often the result of the game is entirely out of my hands. I can play a killer game, and I often do. Hell, I recall going 6-0 on Annie 9 minutes into the game, which, if you don't know League of Legends, is pretty damn good. Especially since I was solo laning at the time. But that game ended up in a loss. You want to know why it ended up in a loss? Because the rest of my team sucked. And there was nothing I could do to stop that from happening. You try and take ownership of the game, but people are entitled. They don't want to be told what to do. They get naturally defensive and then often hostile after the fact. You can't tell these people what to do. You have no chance to earn the respect of these people, and indeed, most of the time you couldn't anyway. You can go 6-0 like I did. Do you think that got me respect from the team? No, we got OP character, You know, I come help their lanes and they just cry. You're stealing my experience and my kills. Like, you weren't going to get the kill anyway. You were getting your ass handed to you, you ignoramus. That's what happens in Battlegrounds. That is Battlegrounds in a nutshell on a larger scale. I never feel in a Battleground like I have been the person that won or lost it. You know, I could be the flag runner in Warsong Gulch, and I can do a good flag run, but you know what? I'll never feel like it was really me. Anyone else could have done that flag run. It's not that hard. You just run in a straight line or juke around a little bit. And yeah, of course, you'll fight from time to time, but most of the time when you lose the flag, it's not in a one-on-one situation. Every now and again it will be, and yeah, you can take ownership of that situation. You can say, well, I am the sole reason why this outcome happened. But most of the time you feel completely out of control. Arathi Basin is my favourite battleground. And if it's not in a fixed team, I feel totally out of control all the time. Maybe I'm just a control freak. Maybe all I want to do is take ownership of every situation, but I don't feel like being along for the ride. I feel like doing my part, but even if I play to the best of my ability, we still lose because of other people that I have no control over. That is not appealing to me as a gamer. That is something that I do not want to happen. Hell, actually, it's half the reason why right now in Call of Duty Black Ops for the past few days, I've just been playing free for all. Because you know what? I like that because I have sole ownership of that. Every situation where I die is my fault. And of course, some of the deaths are understandable. Some of them are a bit crap, you know, I get hit by an attack dog or a kill streak or whatever. But you accept that because you don't feel like the kill was unjustified. Whereas in League of Legends, say if I'm with solo guys or in Battlegrounds, and if I end up getting killed, if I end up getting, let's just say I get ganked by 3 people and there were no missing calls given, or I'm put into a situation as a direct result of the incompetence of my team members, where some hero has got so powerful that it can't be stopped by normal means. That feels bad to me. I feel like I'm not playing the game, I feel like the game is playing me. And I hate that. I absolutely despise it. It's a horrible feeling. It makes me angry. It does. It really, really makes me angry. However, you take the concept of the battleground, which is in itself a solid concept, and then you throw in the idea that the only worthwhile tier of battlegrounds is in an organized fixed team, and then suddenly you get to take ownership of everything again. Because in a fixed team, you have some control over what's going on. And indeed, the fixed team does as well. The team is not going to keep bad players in it. They're going to be organized. They're going to make an effort because they don't want their rating to go down. Absolutely not. Just like a proper fixed team in almost every game I can think of. You can take ownership of the result and the outcome of the fight. Arathi Basin with a fixed team. I've done this before. We got a fixed team back in the day for Arathi Basin. We filled the whole thing. And you know what? We took ownership of that fight and it was fantastic. Because we had people on vent. We split people into 3 groups, obviously, 15-man battleground. And we organized where we were going. We gave calls. It's like we've got 4 guys coming in on this location. We give class calls, say, right, we've got a mage, a warlock, we've got 2 druids coming in on, there's a fight going on here. What's the situation? We keep everyone up to date. We make sure to divert resources from one place to another. That's why I really love Arathi Basin, because you can't hold all 5 points reliably. Yeah? If you 5-base Arathi Basin and you box them in, then well done, you know, but the thing is you would have had to have fought for that. If in a 15 versus 15 fight, maybe in a 15 versus 5, you can just go, hey, I'm just going to go rush stables, right, we'll block them in, they can't do anything, blah, 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 kill them all. But in a proper fight, in a proper competitive battleground, that doesn't happen. You have to divert resources from place to place, you have to be extremely careful about what you manage, and even after all that, of course, it does come down to how well you fight. Communication is key in that battleground, and I love it. I love the fact that battleground's always on a knife edge. It's awesome. Because if you overextend yourself and you spread yourself too thinly, then you can have a point attacked and overwhelmed by a superior force. It's a wonderful, chaotic balance that's going on all the time, which is why it's such a great battleground. There's a similar one, by the way. Battle for Gilneas is actually very similar to Arathi Basin. It's got a very similar concept, so if you're sick of Arathi Basin, you might like the Battle for Gilneas. I never really enjoyed the other ones as much. No, I don't really like Alterac Valley. I don't like the Eye of the Storm. Not hugely into Warsong Gulch. It's alright, but it'll never have that strategy and that resource allocation and all of that communication that's involved in being a successful Arathi Basin player. And it's now finally that we're not only being given a venue to play a battleground properly, but we're being given an extremely compelling reason for doing so. That's why rated battlegrounds are the best thing to happen to PvP, and that's why I'm looking forward to actually doing them. My name is TotalBiscuit, and you are listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. When I come back after the break, we're going to be doing some Cataclysm Q&A. Send it into the Murloc@gmail.com. Any questions you have about the Cataclysm, which is coming up in about 3 weeks, folks. Oh, yes. It's got to be good. Then, you can ask them. You've got a few minutes while I play some music. As to what I'm going to play, Didn't really think this one through. We're gonna have something like battle, don't we? Ah, yes. I know exactly what to play. Ah, yes. There are so many tracks with the word battle in it, but this one just takes the cake. This is the kind of thing you want to be playing when you're doing a Arathi Basin, folks. Turasas with Battle Metal. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Please. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on cynicalbrit.com. Yes, indeed, folks, Q&A time. You can email in for the next 15 minutes of the show. Indeed, the last 15 minutes of the show. themurloc@gmail.com is the place to go. I imagine most questions have probably been answered by now. I remember the days when we had hundreds of questions, but of course, obviously, all the information is already out now, so there's still a few. The first one here is coming in and saying, TV, what are you going to be doing after Cataclysm launches on your channel for WoW? Yeah, a lot of people seem to want to know this, and I have done a video about this, by the way, but I will clarify. So I will be doing Cataclysm content on the channel after the game launches. There'll be a few things. The first thing will be Azeroth Daily, which is going to be... the idea of behind Azeroth Daily is to be a one-stop, this is the news for the day kind of show for WoW, and it will be a video-produced show, so you can subscribe to it, get it directly into your inbox, watch it during your lunch break or whatever, and it's going to be a digest of everything that's happened. So obviously, we'll be talking about news, so anything that goes up on MMO Champion, the official website, the various other places like that, we'll be discussing that. There'll be a little bit of opinion in, not much. I'm not going to spend 15 minutes on a single topic like I do in this show. That's what this show is for. And I'm also not necessarily going to be ranting about everything. There'll be a blue post rundown, so there'll be the particularly noteworthy blue quotes from the day. There's going to be something called the Daily Grind, which is the best quest that I've done today. There's going to be it'll be a little video segment of me doing that quest and telling you why it's awesome, because sometimes you can miss the really good quests, and hey, as we've seen by the popularity of Let's Playing and stuff like that, people like watching other people play video games. There will be a email segment at the end, Q&A basically, and there'll also be contests, there'll be mods of the week, things like that. A lot of different rotating segments that are going to be in this, and this is going to be produced 6 times a week, and it's probably going to be between 5 and 10 minutes in length. So, yeah. Azeroth Daily is the main thing. We've also got the Wipeathon 3000 videos, so that's going to be continuing on all of the bosses in Cataclysm. There's a lot more to still cover, including, of course, the forthcoming stuff. There'll be the Rage Leader, which is going to be sort of a comedy raid guide. I'm going to be trying to put a bit of a storyline into that. Kind of like how there's a storyline I suck at Photoshop. It's like, I'm trying to teach you how to play Photoshop, but also there's helicopters around and there's really bad things happening in my life and stuff like that. It's going to be kind of like that. It's just going to be a really angry raid leader shouting at people. That should be kind of entertaining for people. I will also be playing the Cataclysm quests. I haven't done the vast majority of the Cataclysm questing content. I've just ignored it. Mainly because I would actually like to experience it for myself and give you a good, honest view when Cataclysm launches. Again, people like watching other people play video games. This is just proof positive. You go all over YouTube, you see this happening all the time. Hell, you guys could have done the Cataclysm pre-quest, but 150,000 of you chose to watch me do them. It's as simple as that. People like watching other people play video games. So there'll be that. That's on the WoW side of things, yeah? And there'll also be, obviously, StarCraft 2 stuff and reviews and WTFs and interviews and things like that. So, lots of stuff. Okay. Next question. Do you prefer Hyjal or Vashir? Couldn't tell you, because I haven't done either. Are the Horde modes in Cat Raid more like Ulduar, in which most fights are different, or like TOC, in which everything's basically buffed HP and damage? Again, couldn't tell you, but just bear in mind that they are binary, so they're not really like Ulduar, because with Ulduar, with some of the fights, you could choose various different difficulty levels. What realm will Trollface be on? For the umpteenth time, it will be on Anchorage EU. When will Trollface start recruiting? Let's set a date right now, shall we? The date on which Trollface.jpg will start recruiting on Anchorage EU will be Tuesday, the 16th of November. So I don't know. I will probably do some of the inviting myself, but I will set up some officers, and they're going to be online on there, and I will announce the names of the officers on YouTube and Facebook, and then we'll start inviting people. Because what we need is we need to get an accurate head count. Because we're going to have more than 1,000 people, we need to split the guilds up, and I'd prefer to do that before the launch of Kata and not after, because if you do that, then one guild's going to get ahead of the other on XP, and then people are going to get whiny because they can't get to the main guild and crap like that. So there you go. 16th of November. Tuesday. That's when Trollface will start invites. Open to everyone as long as you are a troll. I will not invite people that are not trolls. Get that into your head. Troll-only guild. Will I be running a locking Cataclysm? No. I don't know, maybe. I mean, if I was going to roll an alt, I'd roll a Druid. Why? Batmon! 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 Simple as that. That's not in the beta yet, by the way, so no, I can't show it to you. MMO Champion, either data mined it or was given that from Blizzard. One way or the other, I don't show data mine content. Oh, yes. What else do we have? Paladins. How are Paladins playing in raid content at 85? As far as I can tell, they're just fine. As far as I can tell. I've heard no complaints from Paladin healers, really. They seem to be doing alright. What else? Pre-installing. When I saw the news about pre-installing Cat Air, I got it after a week, and I thought it was an okay idea. The pre-install? Yeah, of course pre-install is a good idea. Anything that makes the servers more reliable and less under load on release is good. Not sure I really like the idea of, oh, you've got to buy it from us for that, but then again, I don't disagree with the idea of having exclusive benefits for ordering from a particular place. All I can say is, I'm going down to the launch on the 7th of... Is it the 7th or the 6th? It'll be midnight on the 7th of December. I'm going to be down at the launch party, which I assume is going to be in Leicester Square. I assume, anyway. It's going to be at the London store. So I'll be getting my collector's edition from there. And supposedly I might be getting some interviews. We'll see. It's all in progress. I don't want to announce anything on it yet. But yeah, I'll be down there. I'll be in a top hat. It'll be fairly easy to spot me, so come and say hello. What is the news on the old school raids like Blackwing Lair? I've seen they've removed Zul'Gurub, but it also makes sense to remove Molten Core and Blackwing Lair because Ragnar Nefarian are in 2 different raids now. Well, 1, a wizard did it, and 2, a wizard did it. So there you go. Now, it's, they're still there. Molten Core is still there, Blackwing Lair is still there, they haven't changed them. One's a Fire Lord and is a freaking elemental or whatever, so who really cares? And the other is... It's probably not even the same freaking Nefarian, the model's completely different. We don't really care about that, it's the same nonsense as going to kill Onyxia when Onyxia's head is on the pike in Orgrimmar. You just have to suspend that particular amount of disbelief. Have you seen the new Gammon change? Yes, there will be a video about it. Is it a good thing? Of course it is. It's hilarious. You know what? People are going to cry so bad. So bad about that. Ah, Gammon killed me. Deal with it. Sunglasses. There needs to be that. Right. I will give a copy of Woody Two Legs and Attack of the Zombie Pirates to the first person who properly photoshops me a picture of Gammon with the sunglasses and the deal with it meme. Animated would be even better. Go. Okay, what else? What would you do to make the pre-Kata event on live more interesting? Well, maybe have some quests that don't suck. That would be a good start. What else? What's the worst glitch you've encountered so far in Cataclysm? The troll glitch, damn it! Oh, I'm glad they fixed that, but that was horrible. That was the worst, most terrible thing. Oh, man. Did Blizzard ever take care of the sniffing when the Worgen starts moving? Yes, but they still do it, and it's still way too loud. Way too loud. Not happy with that at all. What else do we have? I will be a first-time player of the WoW expansion on release night. Are there any tips you can give me that I should prepare to do at 3 AM my time, December the 7th? Be prepared to wait. Because that's what's going to happen. I'll tell you what. Find the zone which is least popular and go to that one. That will help. I think you might be better off in Vashia, because Vashia is bigger off than Hyjal. I don't know. That, and people probably won't be able to figure out how to get to Vashia because they're dumb, so go to Vashia. Do your questing there. Make sure that everything works there. Get your underwater breathing buff, and you'll get the seahorse fairly quickly after you do your quests anyway. There's no real way to miss it. Aside from that, just be prepared for BS and server downtime. It tends to happen an awful lot. Is there any word if heirlooms will still give experience after level 80? I actually don't know. I think they do, but I've got to... You know, I could probably Google this. After level 80. Here we go. Heirlooms after level 80. They're changing heirlooms so the experience stats on them stops working after level 80. And you can buy new ones. Yep. It's currently our intention that the heirloom items will stop at level 80, and we're looking into ways to prevent the experience bonus from working when leveling past 80. There you go. Blue response to that. That was done... When the hell was that? That was quite a while ago by Slorkers, the Blizzard poster. So there you go. There's your answer. Yes, I did just Google the answer. Hard. Why do I have a troll fetish? That's the best thing. Everyone has a troll fetish. Go and look up the definition of fetish. You'll find out what I mean. Okay, folks. Shout-out time. Send them in. Last 5 minutes of the show, please. Email themurloc@gmail.com with your shout-outs. That is themurloc@gmail.com. First things first, a shout-out to Kexman for his new Versus the World show, and to you for entertaining me on my 2-hour drive to the University of Illinois to visit my brother. That's from Brotz, the level 80 mage on Birding Legion US. You better not be sending me emails while driving, because seriously, that is really dangerous. Don't do that, kids. Oh dear. That would be fairly horrible, wouldn't it? You can send them in via Twitter, by the way, as well, and via IRC. I'm not in Tiny Chat today. Shout out to Warlocks, because we will always be better than Mages. Warlocks represent... That's so not true. That's from Toggy. Would Lawfree... No, we don't want that. There we go. A shout out to Krellian the Stormcrow. That's from Badger. Badgers shouldn't be giving shout-outs. They can't be trusted. They have rabies and shiz. Give me a shout out for finally getting Chendralar exalted. Congratulations, Rena. You have nothing better to do with your time. Shout out to Cool Cats on Emerald Dream and Twisted Play at I-41. Yeah, sadly, I'm not at I-41. Some people might wonder why. Apparently, there was some backroom BS about casting, and for ages, they promised me the ability to cast and said, oh, we want you back at I-41, and then apparently someone else is now casting with the Apollo. I'd understand, but the guy's barely cast anything in his life, so whatever. I don't know, folks. Nah. I'll just spend the time making videos for you. Shout out to Angelo and Tutu, that's from Onin. What else do we have? Shout out to Shattered Hand EU with the message, we actually do care. That's from Dagger Eye. Okay. A shout out to Kelsus on Earthen Ring US for having my favourite RP guild. That's from Rastrak. Can I get a shout out from me getting my account back from the dirty Chinese gold farmers? That's from Maxran, level 80 rogue, Chamber of Aspect EU. What else do we have? Shout out to Zanman for being an epic tank, and Sareth for being a sneaky undead feed. Also say this, F Deathcore, that's from Ryan Hood. Can I get a shout out to the Requiem, Bronzebeard US, also where is Tinkertown? Tinkertown is somewhere inside the Blackwing Descent. Can I have a shout out to Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines for being the most awesome game I've ever played. Also in Soviet Russia, the game plays you. That's from Andreas Kessels. Can I get a shout out from the host of shows, the not one but two Jawmanga worms who live in the mountains? Oh, the memes. Yo, dog, I heard you like them. Can I get a shout out to my guild Tunnel Vision on Nazil US Alliance? Our leadership recently came back to the game after a break through most of ICC, transferred off our dead unbalanced realm, and reformed on a new server for a fresh start. Shameless plug, now recruiting all classes and specs for 25-band raiding in Cataclysm. That's from Ben Drow from Nazil US. He's a level 80 Fire Mage. Couple more, then I'll do it. Thaz on Echo Isles from Cage, simple enough. And shout out to me for introducing the better side of metal, that's from Fenrix. Yes. A shout out to Lunatics Convention on Argent Dawn EU, and Lillian, level 80 Rogue, and my girlfriend from Cal Hanol. You sound like a cough medicine. A shout out to Invictus Imperium of Frostmourne Oceanic, that's from Scythus. And a shout out to me for digging 80 tomorrow on Boulderfist EU, that's from Carzil. Last but by no means least, folks, a shout out to you, good sir, for giving us nerds some StarCraft 2 content. If you haven't seen it already, folks, check it out on my channel. A lot of matches. I don't want to actually give you the number, but there's this best of 7 show match series between Randy and Pure Ball. It's very, very cool. It's for £100 by Aqua Tuning. I would strongly recommend you go watch it, even if you have no interest in StarCraft 2 whatsoever. Give it a try. Seriously, I'm trying to be this gateway drug, and the first sample is free. I can guarantee you that. I'm done, folks. Thank you very much for listening to the show. No doubt I will see you next Friday. Actually, no, maybe I will. Next Friday is my sort of quarterly gathering. There might be a vendor strike show. Maybe. I'll keep you informed to that. Keep an eye on my Facebook. Keep an eye on my Twitter. I'll see if I can do something. Like I say, I've got a bunch of friends over for the weekend, so maybe not. And also, I'll just give a shout out to those going to the Cynical LAN in Newcastle. There will be information over the next couple of days about prepaying. Most likely, we're not going to have enough spaces for everyone, so it's going to be first come, first served. I'm afraid that land set isn't all that large, and considering the amount of interest, I think we'll arrange a different Cynical land, maybe either around Christmas or New Year, for a larger group of people in a larger location. I'm out, folks. Thank you very much. I think we can finish on something particularly awesome. By awesome, I mean Opeth. Oh yes. Some Ghost of Perdition. Good night. You have been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Please, WoW's #1 shock jock show, only on CynicalBrit.com. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to leave a comment on the Cynical Brit website or write a review of the show on iTunes. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.